let it all hang out. After midnight, we're gonna chug, look, and shine. We're gonna cause talk and suspicion, give an exhibition, find out what it is all about. After midnight.
Welcome back to Game Points. I'm your host, Matthew Ross. We're here until 8 o'clock tonight. Standing by is Glen Suitor from CFL and TSN coverage. But first, I do want to make mention of an event that's coming up in honor of an individual who certainly helped the TSN 690 family here. If you are a guy on Facebook, you may be a listener of TSN 690 as well, then you know the Save TSN group, the Save TSN 990 or 690 group, as it's called out there. That's run by an individual named Rakesh Deer, and he has an event coming up at La Ronde on August 25th. And tickets are $40 each, which is actually cheaper than getting regular La Ronde tickets. So if you're interested in dance and concerts and that kind of fun stuff, it's a Montreal South Asian event at La Ronde, August 25th, $40 tickets. You can go to montrealsaf.com for more information, or you can call at 514-979-9392. But check out montrealsaf.com. You'll get more information on it. If you're going to La Ronde anyway that weekend, you may as well get tickets through them. The Montreal South Asian event at La Ronde. Right now, we're going to talk some CFL here on the program. We welcome in from TSN's coverage of the Canadian Football League. You can follow him on twitter.com/Glen Suitor. It is Glen Suitor. Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, we are delighted to have you here. Mo, who, of course, you know is our co-host here, he said that you're a country western fan, so we tried to get you some music that you may enjoy coming in here.
I love it, man. Yes, I am. Big-time country music. Spent a little bit of time in Nashville, Tennessee in the off-season of football. My son's in school down there, and he's a guitar player and singer as well, playing the honky-tonk. So I enjoy it. That's how if I want to relax, it's at a honky-tonk. Can't think of a better way to do it.
Glenn, obviously the Alouettes are on their bye week. After the first 5 weeks, what is your assessment of this football team as they come back from their bye, getting ready for Toronto next week?
I think it's a work in progress. I think that they had to basically go back to square one and really scrap what they've been doing over the past 5 years under Mark Trestman and start to, develop their own system and start to understand that system. And that's going to take a little bit of time. I thought they took a very positive step in a close game against Edmonton. I know a lot of people are qualifying that game by saying the Eskimos aren't that good a team, so what have you really accomplished? But, I think that's disrespectful to say about any professional athlete that, they go to play, and that was a good game down to the wire, and Brandon Whitaker broke out. Jamel Richardson was the leading receiver, and, that was a little bit like the Montreal Alouettes of old, that, Jamel Richardson is featured. They have a good balanced attack, and we saw a little bit out of that. So I thought it was a positive step.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that offense, Glenn. Obviously, Anthony Calvillo maybe isn't off to the greatest of starts. Are you seeing anything in his game right now that's worrisome for Alouettes fans or the organization? Or is it just, again, getting used to a system and off to a bit of a slow start?
Yeah, I don't. I don't see a different guy from a year ago or 2 years ago. He's certainly not the same as he was 6 years ago, but who is? I mean, I think you go back and you compare it to what he just did, and you compare it to last year. And when I do that, I don't see a guy who's physically slower. I don't see a guy who's doesn't have the same arm strength that he had a year ago. So makes the same quick decisions as he did. He's in a different offense, and that offense has frustrated him at times. Only because, not because it's not a good offense or it doesn't have potential, only because he's so new to it. And he made a great point to me that I wrote about in my blog on tsn.ca, guys, yesterday, that if if you fire a coach, it's usually because your team is playing poorly, it's at the bottom of the barrel, and something has to change, and they fire a coach. That was not the case when Mark Trestman left. When Mark Trestman left, the offense was playing well. He left to take a job in Chicago, as you know, and it was a very different scenario. So with an offense that's running well, it now changes, and it starts at the beginning. And when it started at the beginning and wasn't successful, it was very frustrating for AC. So it's a very different circumstance than when a coach leaves an organization that we normally see.
Glenn, obviously with this coach staff and with Anthony Calvillo sort of in transition, learning a new offense, what do they have to do to make this offense to continue to succeed and be like the old Al's offense from a couple of years ago with Mark Trestman at the helm?
Yeah, to me, it's about buying in. It really is. I think, as a human being, we all fight change sometimes. And, whether it's, a different rule, it could be a different law, different rule, different way of doing something, different way of approaching something, and you fight it. It's just you don't do it consciously, but you're so used to a routine, and in all walks of life, and it's hard to break out of those routines. We're creatures of habit. We really are, and I think more than anything, the players collectively have got to buy into a new way of thinking, a new system, see the benefits from it, because until you actually commit yourself and buy in 100%, you don't see the potential. You just see the change. And so, I think Anthony Calvillo 2 weeks ago began that process. When I met with him prior to this past Thursday's game, he was very forthright with me, basically explaining, this is up to me to stop making excuses and to completely buy in, because there's a lot of good in this offense. I just hadn't seen it. And I've got to open my eyes, broaden my vision, and buy into this. And I think when everybody does that, they'll start to click.
Chatting with Glen Suitor from CFL on TSN's coverage. You can check out his blog on tsn.ca. You can also check him out on twitter.com/Glen Suitor. Glenn, we've been talking a lot about the offense, but in my mind, the biggest question coming into the season obviously was about the defense, which had a lot of injuries, had a lot of holes, may or may not have cost them in the playoffs last year. I think they're getting a little overshadowed here. I mean, I've seen some tremendous signs that defense will be good down the stretch this year. Your thoughts on what we're seeing there? Certainly Jim Popp had to do a lot of retooling.
I see a vast improvement. I see a defense that is good enough to win and good enough to take the football team to a championship game. I really do. I think that linebacking core alone with Kyrus Hebert coming from safety down and playing in the box and blitzing at quarterbacks and doing all those things that he does so well, you now move him closer to the line of scrimmage, and he has that many more plays to potentially, be a difference maker. So I see a vastly improved defense that, had this not been sort of a new beginning offensively, that this team is, I would venture to guess it's got a much better record. And it's that much better on the defensive side of the ball. They are getting overshadowed because everyone is looking at Anthony Calvillo, and once again, all saying, is this the year that we start to see the decline? Everyone's talking about Mike Miller, their offensive coordinator, and is he good enough? Is the system good enough? Those have been the questions. And I tried to answer some of those when I talked to those guys and wrote it in my blog, and I think they are getting close to answering them, and through that, this defense has been overshadowed because it's improved in a big way.
Glenn, switching gears here to the Ottawa Red Blacks, the expansion draft was announced for middle of December here. We're seeing the ascension of backup quarterbacks, whether it's Bo Levi Mitchell, Drew Willie to name here, who have played very well coming on in relief or as a starter. What do you forecast now for the Ottawa Red Blacks? How tough of this decision will it be for them to decide who could be their future quarterback for years to come?
Well, it's going to be very tough because, yes, it has been a good weekend, and in a few minutes we'll see Zach Collaros go as well for the Toronto Argonauts because Ricky Ray's not playing against BC tonight. So we'll get a taste of what he can do. And, with all the early success, it would be easy for Ottawa right now to start not penciling in even, start writing in who they might want to pick. I think it's early to do that. I think Ottawa's goal here is to evaluate every time they get a chance to see the guys play live, and they will do that all season long. They got to think about the mix with regards to a veteran player at quarterback and possibly a young guy, that a future star, and how that mix will work and who may be available. I do know this, though, guys. Unlike any other expansion draft that I've seen, probably in any sport, Ottawa will get a chance to build a very good football team right out of the gate, because the rules are such that every team can only protect one quarterback, so they should get two really good players, potential stars, or even a good veteran if they want to. And even with the first round, you can only protect 10 Americans. You can only protect 6 Canadians in the first round of that draft. That means that one starter from a team is going to Ottawa. And, for Canadians and even, there's a couple of 2-3 starters of Americans that will be potentially drafted. So this team will be able to put some talent on the field, and hopefully we'll be able to compete right out of the gate.
He is Glen Suitor. You can check him out on tsn.ca, Glen Suitor on Twitter, or obviously you can check out the TSN game right now. It's BC against Toronto live on TSN. Glen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and here's a little more honky-tonk for you.
Love it. Thanks.
All right, take care. Have a good night. There you go. That's a little wrestling music, too, at the same time. Very nice. The honky-tonk man. Marco Polo's a genius, isn't he? It is Game Points here on TSN 690. One more hour to come here of Game Points. On the other side, we will talk some NFL training camp. News and notes next.
I'm just a honky-tonk man.